Is tracing cheating? I don't think so, if you do it right. You've learned a lot about light so far in this series. We found a few shapes that we can construct most objects from, and how to color them appropriately. There's one more part of your art toolbox that you haven't added yet formally, and that's line. Lines are the edges between materials, objects, and even shades. We've used them informally to set shapes, but now it's time we look at creating lines. And the best way to start learning about lines is tracing. That brings us to a big deal for a lot of artists. Is tracing cheating? I don't believe it is. Many artists have used tracing methods for centuries. Since the 1600s, the camera obscura, a lens projecting an image onto a canvas, was a tool of many artists. This precursor to our modern camera meant a painter traced his image or even painted the projected image in front of him. Other devices, such as the camera lucida and light tables, have been used by rather famous artists to start or even complete works. To help with scaling smaller drawings up to murals, artists often use projectors, then trace their lines. Tracing is a tool, not a cheat. Tracing helps you see where your lines are. Most people see objects. You're looking at a person, me, who's holding up his hand. But what if I reach out to you? Freeze this image and notice my hand is bigger than my head. This is known as foreshortening. Objects closer to us appear bigger.
Foreshortening takes a lot of skill, and at early stages of your drawing career, you may not have that kind of skill. Even something as simple as this cup here, it's kind of hard to do even that much if you try to do my hand in the cup. So the point is, if you can trace, then you can start to get the idea of how to deal with lines on this cup and be able to do a better rendering than you could by just trying to do it by yourself.
So let's try this. Open up a new canvas. I'm going to leave my eraser at Vine Charcoal in case I need it. And over here on the brush, I'm going to go over to sketching, and I'm going to use an HB pencil for this kind of work. And I will be using my Apple Pencil for this too. All right, now we're going to add a photo. Now, I have some photo references here, so I'm just going to go to Add and Insert a Photo. And I'm going to go pick this one of the flower in the bottles here. Okay, and I think that looks pretty good. Let's just zoom it out a little bit, see how we're doing. Do a little bit of positioning of it. Okay, and I turn off the arrow now. And you're going to do several things here. First of all, I'm going to make an extra layer, and that'll be my drawing layer. Then I'm going to go back down here to layer 1, and I'm going to hit the N so that I get my big menu here of things to do. And I'm going to bring down my opacity somewhere around 60%. Usually works well. You can go lower than that too. The idea is to fade out that image. It makes it easier to see your lines as you are working. And I have brown now. I often, for pencils, tend to go for the blue-gray that we've been using. So I'm going to go change my color to blue-gray. Okay. And I'm going to go zoom in on these bottles on the left here. And you probably figured out how to do this from this point, is just make sure that you're in layer 2. Don't be in layer 1. I have done that way too many times to count and had to start all over. So make sure you're in the right layer. And then just start tracing with your pencil. And this has got a very thin line, so it's very nice to use. And you just make lines like this. And I'm tracing the outline here. Now you want to not just trace outlines. You're going to trace inside of things. You're going to look for any kind of edge. So I have an edge between a bottle and the bottle cap. I may have edges for parts of the bottle, like that. Or bottles intersecting with other bottles. So we got the bottle cap over here. We got that lip. And then go down and trace like this, okay? Keep going like that. You can do other parts here. I can start doing the box. You're going to do this a lot like you were doing a puzzle, and you're just going to keep saying, okay, I just did this part. Now what interlocks to that part? And you keep going back and forth like this. And you keep going like that. And you can start seeing that things are starting to come together. All right, now I'm going to go over here to the other side here. And I'm going to do this other bottle. And here you could see foreshortening really well. I'm just going to zoom in on this part here. So this bottle is actually the same size as the two bottles I just sketched. But because it's pointing at the camera, at your point of view, the bottle cap is much bigger. And this is the kind of distortion you get from foreshortening. And again, I'm going to go ahead and start making some tracing in here. And I start with that neck, and then I can go around the bottle here to get some shapes that might be useful. And then I can go around the bottle cap. And notice I'm not being too picky with my lines. I'm not being very straight here. You can always fix that after you've done the trace, and that will be part of your art, is how you look at these lines. So I got that in there. Maybe add a little bit of the label. We got my carton that I put this in. So let's get that crate line there. And I can keep going just like this. You can even include some of these lines in here that you might have. You'll also notice sometimes there's shapes or shadows inside of things, and those are good to mark, like highlights. So we got this highlight up here. Mark those. And find all the different kinds of shapes and colors. I could actually put where the sauce is on the bottle and where it's transparent. All of that can be traced, and you pick what you want to do for that kind of tracing. Let's go down over here, and I'm going to go do the flower now. And the flower here has got some interesting options about what to do. Now, I'm going to start flowers. You're not going to just do every single petal. That's not the best way to do this. Instead, what I do is you find the edges that make the most sense, that you see the most optically. Of course, the first one of those will be the exterior petals over here, and just where it touches the rest of the picture. And I'm just going to go around like this. Okay. And then I have another set of petals in here. I'm going to do that same loop type thing where I'm just going to go around the edge there. And you can see that I'm just, oops. And if you make a mistake, of course, you can just erase a little bit. And just keep going along like that until you finish that. Now I got another line of those in here so that I could do this again, or I could do this center part here and get that. So I have the basic amount of flowers. Now from this point, I may start marking some petals, and if I see some interesting shapes here, particularly shadow shapes, you start looking at things, for example, like over here where we've got a different color on each one of the petals. So you might want to mark some of those out, or a highlight on a petal. And you can start marking out some petals like this. All right, and then you can just keep going like that. And just keep marking petals, or bottles, or whatever. Do more lines in here. I actually can see that there's a big shape right here that I might mark, and a big shape right here that I might mark, which are two different colors. And there's another one here. So I may mark things by their color, not necessarily by the fact that they make an edge. Like that. Okay. And of course I can do the bottle that the flower is in. Okay, and now what we can do every once in a while is just turn off the reference photo, and you can start to see what you got here. Okay. Now I'm not going to finish this trace. Instead, I'm going to make that a challenge. Go ahead and trace this image. You'll find it on the website, and then you can try a few more. Get a few images from the web. I'm a big fan of Pinterest for finding interesting images. You can also try a selfie like I did here. Try to be loose with your lines on this one. See how I wasn't super accurate on drawing lines. It gives a more artistic rendering if you are a bit loose. This too is why tracing isn't cheating. You are making artistic decisions what to add and what to leave out, how to put down a line, and a lot more. That makes this tracing the beginning of a painting that is uniquely you, and that is art. In our next lesson, I'll show you the first techniques in quick filling in of tracings and drawing with scribble hatching. So hit subscribe so you don't miss this or any lesson in our series.